This week, the HPT crowns a champion from the Prairie Meadows Racetrack Casino Hotel. We started the final leg to the championship with the Elite 9 from this talented field. And now we continue shorthanded with the final few looking to make their dreams a reality. Over 54,000 waits up top for the last player standing.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gonna cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello again and welcome to the HPT with the finale of an amazing final table here at the Prairie Meadows Racetrack Casino Hotel. What a week it has been, filled with intense tournament action, juicy cash games, sleeping till noon, and room service.
You are an international man of leisure, my friend. I'm Maria Ho, he's Fred Bevel, and after a weekend of poker, this field went from hundreds of players to just 9. Now this week, the final few remaining will fight down to our newest HPT champion.
This is the time, Maria, where these players need to hunker down and turn up the heat. Over 54,000 is waiting for the last player standing. Obviously, they all want the money, but after talking to these players, the title of HPT champion is what they really want.
Being an HPT champion is something every player strives for, and the players that have earned that distinction are in an elite group. I'm looking forward to seeing how the end of this journey plays out for these players.
It's going to be fun. Let's take a look at the updated chip counts, the money on the line, and then get right to the action.
The remaining 7 players have a little bit of a pay jump to look forward to, as our 7th place finisher is going to go home with over $8,000. But of course, everybody is still eyeing that top prize of $54,000 and change, along with being our newest HPT champion.
The money is gravy, Maria, but you hit it right there. The championship is what these players really want.
And it's been a little bit of a revolving door of chip leaders throughout this final table. As you can see, we have a new chip leader, Terry Ring, with just under $1 million. And there's not much separation between Dash and Andy in second and third, but we do have a couple of sub 20 big blind stacks, Rick and Chris, but Ron is our shortest stack with 6 big blinds.
And again, it's fun to see Terry at this final table. He's in the 1 seat right now. We see him a lot on the HPT. To see a regular player on our tour make a final table is always a little extra fun. I can't help, I'm rooting for him. There, I said it.
Well, hopefully he could keep this momentum going. Nick is going to be the first to come in this pot, making a raise to $35,000 with King 10 offsuit.
Last time on the HPT, the first half of this final table, we saw a lot of limping, a lot of check calling. And Maria, that kind of, I'm not going to say it annoyed you. Well, maybe irked is the better word.
It strongly irked me.
She likes to see the raising, and that is exactly what we're seeing here. Nick has made it $35,000 to go. Chris has announced a re-raise. And it looks like it'll be to the tune of $95,000 in chips.
Well, Chris only does have 14 big blinds, so I'm surprised he didn't just 3-bet shove there, but I guess he got what he wanted anyway because Nick decides to 4-bet all in with King 10 here, and I think Chris actually kind of gave him a little bit of an out there, and Nick didn't really take it. I think anytime someone's willing to 3-bet you off of a 14 big blind stack, you gotta be a little bit leery that they have a huge hand.
The flop is deuce, queen, deuce, so no help to Nick's king 10. Right now, Chris's jacks are way ahead.
Give him the 10.
Chris hoping to find a king. Those are the only live outs he has.
Put a heart up there. Gotta play the players. Put a heart. Yeah. Well, you did. He didn't really have anything. He just got lucky.
And the turn is the queen of clubs. Chris is still ahead with queens and jacks.
So Nick will need to see a king on the river to eliminate Chris, or a deuce on the river would chop this pot. Chris hoping to double up. Here comes the river.
And the river is the 5 of hearts, and Chris is going to double up here. He has been playing pretty tight at this final table. Also didn't seem to have many hands to play with, so it's nice to see him get a double up after he's exercised so much patience.
Almost $500,000 in chips going Chris Louvier's way, and that's just what the doctor ordered. Chris is only in this main event for $360, got in through a qualifier. He's an insurance adjuster from Bangs, Texas. Blinds continuing on here at 8 and 16,000 with a 2,000 chip ante. Nick will be first to go here. And he is going to fold. Now over to Terry, the chip leader at the moment. Action continues to move around the table. This time it's Ron Schultz's turn. Ron Schultz is an HVAC technician from Nebraska.
And Ron, with 6 big blinds, decides to move all in with King 4 of diamonds. Can't really blame him for that.
And a couple of seats to Ron's left is Rick Golden. He is going to move all in with Ace 8 of hearts to isolate. And so far that is working as the action folds all the way around the table. So we're back to Ron now. He's already all in.
Wow.
Ron's going to see that he's live, although Rick is ahead.
Flip a coin, Maria. Heads or tails? It's going to be the Ace 8 or the King 4 that ends up winning this hand. 226,000 in the pot.
And the flop is Ace 10 3 rainbow. Rick has top pair of aces, putting Ron in even worse position now to double up.
The turn needs to be a diamond for a sweat, and that is what he gets.
He gets a pretty big sweat. Not only the backdoor flush draw came in for him, but a backdoor straight draw does as well.
Queen. A queen.
So a diamond or a queen are the only cards that'll help Ron on the river. Otherwise, he will be our 7th place finisher.
And the river is the deuce of diamonds, and Ron is going to double up here. This final table has seen a lot of draws get there.
This table's doing it.
Yeah, I'm going to dub this final table the Boulevard of Bad Beats and Broken Dreams.
Yeah.
A lot of the hands that were second best going into the river ended up being the winning hand after the river. And that's a frustrating day for a poker player on the business end of that situation.
Even though this pot isn't huge, it really wasn't a pot that Rick could afford to lose, as he is pretty short with 19 big blinds at the start of this hand. And now he's going to see 6 of those big blinds go Ron's way, as well as the blinds and antes.
A lot of money on the line here in Iowa. We'll continue to play down to a champion right after this.
Thanks for staying with us. We are now down to 7 players, so let's take it back inside.
Terry Ring is slowly accumulating more and more chips to pad his top spot. However, we could see on the other side of things, Rick, Ron, and Nick are in the danger zone, all of them pretty short with 13 big blinds or less.
Yeah, Rick, Ron, Nick all looking for the all-in hand and hope that it sticks. Chris Louvier, after his big double up, is sitting pretty comfortable right now. Blinds continue at 8 and 16,000 with a 2,000 chip ante. And here is our chip leader, Vietnam veteran Terry Ring, a crew favorite among the HPT. And Terry, under the gun with an ace, is going to just limp into this pot. And now Ron's action, he's going to go ahead and limp in behind. And this is what you tend to find. One call creates an avalanche of calls. Next thing you know, you got a family pot going to the flop with no information being given to anybody.
Ace Deuce already doesn't play well post-flop multi-way, especially in a limped pot. Rick decides to move all in with King Jack and stop all this limping nonsense.
Rick, one of the short stacks, doesn't have a whole lot of room to play. He pretty much just has one decision. Am I going to go all in here or am I going to fold? And now we are over to Dash, who woke up with a monster ace queen. He is going to move all in to isolate and get heads up with Rick.
I don't have to think too long about that. Oh, are you still in? I'm sorry.
And Terry is going to fold. Ron is going to fold. And Dash got what he wanted. He's heads up. And Maria, we saw Terry, Ron, and Andy all fold aces, so the aces are dead for Dash. So if Rick hits a king here, Dash is in a whole lot of trouble. Here comes the flop.
And the flop is 8-8-3, a couple of diamonds there.
It can only be three
Dash
deuces,
does
like three
have
now.
the ace of diamonds in his hand and is still ahead with ace high.
We know Dash isn't going to hit an ace. Here comes the turn.
I fold the 8 o'clock.
The turn is the 7 of clubs. Still no help to Rick. He's looking for a king or a jack on the river, or else he will be eliminated.
Rick hoping for some paint to stay alive. Here comes the river.
And the river is yet another lifesaver for somebody's tournament life here at this final table. Rick
You
being the
are a
lucky
survivor,
recipient
buddy.
of that with jacks and eights now.
I'm going to start doing a little like scoreboard on bad beats. I think at this table, that's the 9th bad beat we've seen to save a player at the final table.
Except for those diamonds.
So Rick gets a little bit lucky. You got to get a little bit lucky in a tournament to see it all the way to the end, and he is going to double up. Blinds are going up as well. They're now 10 and 20,000 with a 3,000 chip ante. And Nick March, a one-time chip leader at this final table, will be under the gun. He folds. Terry, the current chip leader, folds over to Ron now. He's going to get out of the way. Rick doesn't want to play. This is Chris Louvier. Ace-8 offsuit. And he is just going to limp. And now it's pocket sevens for Andy Van Blair.
I imagine in a limped pot, blind versus blind, Andy is going to raise this up with sevens in position.
I'm all in.
Andy is going to raise it up to 60,000. And Maria, before he can even get the chips out, Chris announces that he is all in.
Well, I guess Chris decided he wanted to do the whole limp re-raise all-in trick here. And you know, ace-8 isn't a bad hand to do that with blind versus blind, but Andy actually does have a hand he could call with. And with Chris having about 20 big blinds, I think
343 for
Andy
me to
should call.
Right.
Correct.
The limp re-raise all-in trick. I missed that at the last Copperfield show.
It only works when you win.
Well, Andy now on a decision,
Good call.
and he is going to make the call. And Chris is going to see he isn't all that bad a shape. He's got 2 overcards to Andy's 7, so he is live.
Chris is at risk and flipping here.
Will the best hand hold up this time, or will the second best hand come from behind?
Two kings.
Here is the
There
flop.
you go. I'm talking. Let's take a lone ace.
And the flop is deuce 310. So far, sevens are hanging on, but I feel like if history's any indication, sevens are not going to be good by the river. Sorry, Andy.
Andy hoping to make Chris the 7th place finisher. Chris hoping to double up and stay in the fight for the championship. On to the turn we go.
And the turn is the 6 of clubs, and sevens are still in the lead.
It's always got to be on the river. We got to get
Yep.
past one more street here.
Yep, this is the street that people have had a problem getting past, so Chris needs an ace or an 8 on the river to stay alive.
And here it comes. The river is an 8. And just like that, Chris goes from on his way out the door to a fresh set of chips to the tune of almost 830,000.
There's definitely been a lot of lives saved by the river, and I'm sure it's getting frustrating not only for the player taking the bad beat, but you know the rest of the table is rooting for the person to get knocked out too.
Absolutely. A pay jump comes with every elimination.
We will have a winner at some point, folks, so come back for more.
Thanks for coming back to the HPT, where life-changing money is on the line for one of these players. Let's check in with the updated chip count and get right to the action.
Terry Ring is the only player so far to manage to keep his chip lead. He has over 1.1 million. Chris Louvier has made a lot of gains in the last couple of hands, and he has 753,000 now. Nick and Andy have about 15 big blinds each, and Ron is on life support with 6 big blinds.
Here's our chip leader. This is Terry Ring, big crew favorite among the HPT. We see him a lot on the tour. We're all excited to see him at his first final table. He's going to lay this hand down now. Over to Ron.
65.
He folds.
65.
Rick raises to 65,000.
Rick is going to raise it up.
Rick has somewhat of a short stack here, but he still has enough to raise, fold, or go all in if he'd like. He does elect to raise here with 65,000 and pocket sixes. Chris calls with king, queen off.
And now it's king 10 suited for Nick Marsh. Rick, the original raiser in this hand, lives right here in Des Moines. Plans on using his winnings to buy himself a motorcycle. He's 60 years old, started this final table third from the bottom in chips, so hats off to him for grinding this far in.
And Nick decides that he wants to squeeze all in here with king 10 of diamonds.
I like it.
I do. I'm just not sure he's going to see a fold from both of these players.
Probably not from Rick, but I think he's going to get Chris out of the way. I guess we'll see. It's 259,000 for Rick to call. So he'll probably just go ahead and go all in if he wants to play this hand. Wow, he's going to fold the pocket sixes, and he accidentally tables the hand as well.
I think Nick likes to see that. Except he doesn't know it, but now he wants Chris to fold because Chris actually has Nick dominated. Feels pretty good to see king, queen in a dominating position, huh, Fred?
I love it.
Don't see that often.
It is my hand. You know, I find it hard to play cash poker at the events, though, because everybody always puts me on king, queen. Although it's easy to bluff when you have a king high board.
And I'm not sure if Rick tabling his sixes by accident caused Chris to call, seeing that maybe his king and queen is live. But, you know, now Nick's in a bad spot. He's got to hit a 10.
Nick hoping for some love on the flop, and it does not come. It's Jack 8, Jack with 2 clubs.
Club.
9.
Clubs.
They could pair the board here. Another
clubs.
8 would double pair the board, and they'd both have 2 pair with a king kicker. Otherwise, it's a 10 that Nick will be looking for.
Turn, please.
10.
And the turn is the ace of hearts, and that's actually a bad card for Nick because if a 10 comes, Chris is going to have Broadway. So now Nick is looking to chop here on the river.
An ace, an 8, or a king are the chop outs that Nick is hoping for.
Ace 8 10.
Let's see the river.
Ace 8 10.
The river is a 3 of hearts, and Chris's king queen high is going to be enough to scoop almost 750,000 in chips and eliminate Nick Marsh from this final table.
There you go, Nick.
Good run for Nick this weekend. He'll be going back to his home in Fort Dodge, Iowa with a little over $8,000. I hope we see him again real soon. Terry will be under the gun this hand. His blind's continuing at 10 and 20 with a 3K.
Terry folds.
Boy, King Queen making a lot of appearances at this final table. I've been trying to temper it when I see it, but it's going to show up this much. And that's going to be good enough for Ron to go all in. Why not? Ron only has what, Maria?
6 big blinds.
6 big blinds. Chris is going to fold over to Andy Van Blair, who's got a big hand, pocket queens.
Unfortunately for Ron, Andy has woken up with a huge hand. Ron's going to be in bad shape.
Which is it?
I think there could be an argument made for going all in and isolating or just calling. But Andy decides he just wants to put it all in there with queens and go heads up against Ron.
Still waiting for Dash to fold, and then we'll be heads up here. Oh, he did fold, and Ron is going to table King Queen.
He put us all in.
And Andy's going to show his pocket queens.
There's a king in there.
And Ron's going to see he's got 3 outs
It's
to pull out a winner.
Andy shows pocket.
In this table, yeah. Right?
A little under 300,000 in the pot. Ron's tournament life at risk, needs to find a king, or he will be eliminated in 6th place.
Yeah.
The flop is ace, ace, 5, couple of hearts there, and that's no help to Ron. He's still looking for a king. Does have the best heart though, and there could be a backdoor heart possibility.
A heart on the turn would create pretty fun sweat for everybody but Andy.
And the turn basically has Ron drawing dead to a chop, and ace will chop this pot. Otherwise, Ron will be eliminated in 6th place.
It is called dead.
That's it. All over.
And the river is the 10, and Andy is going to score the knockout.
Ron Schultz, 57 years old, playing in his first HPT event. He makes the final table. I say he's running pretty well with us. I hope we see him again. He'll be going back home to Wood River, Nebraska with just under $10,000. Congratulations, sir.
We're having a great time here at Prairie Meadows. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but stay tuned in and we'll get back to the action.
Welcome back to the HPT. Right now, Chris Louvier is the man to beat. Let's check the updated chip counts and get right to the action.
And we have a new chip leader. This time, Chris Louvier is going to enjoy the top spot with over $1 million. Terry Ring hasn't slipped that far from grace, though, with $950,000. And there aren't really too many super short stacks. As you can see, Dash, Rick, and Andy all have less than 30 big blinds. But as we've said, they do have a really great 3-bet shove stack.
Blinds are going up. They're now 12 and 24,000 with a 3,000 chip ante. And action will start this hand with Chris Louvier. He's going to limp in with Queen Jack offsuit.
This limping in thing is an illness, people. With the chip leader limping in,
Rick.
I just think it puts them in a lot of bad spots, and they could really just be taking down a lot of blinds and antes uncontested.
Well, we see all this limped pot creates 4- and 5-way flops. A lot of traffic for any hand.
The flop is deuce, queen, jack, 2 spades, and looks like this limping in's gonna pay off for Chris here as he's flopped top 2. Dash has flopped a flush draw though. And it's checked over to him, and he's gonna bet 36,000.
Dash semi-bluffing with his draw. Now, I think if Chris would have raised under the gun and then flopped 2 pair, he wouldn't have so much to worry about. But you let 10-5 of spades in with you. Now you got to fade against the flush draw. Dash is going to semi-bluff his flush draw. And look at this. Chris is going to check raise. Makes it 136,000 to go.
Now I think Dash is trying to think, does Chris maybe have a bigger flush draw than me? Do I want to play a big pot and just go all in here and hope to hit? And these are all considerations that are going through Dash's mind because he's not quite sure what to put Chris on.
Come on. I call.
Well, he chose what you thought. Let's just play a big pot and shove them all in. And Chris snap calls. And look at this, Maria. Over 1.4 million chips on the line here. By far the biggest hand we've seen at this final table.
And I don't know if I like this shove by Dash. He could have easily been dominated by a bigger flush draw. And this is why it's just kind of silly to have a limped pot turn into this huge, monstrous pot on the flop with somebody on a draw.
The turn is the 2 of clubs. Harmless card for Chris. He just needs to fade a spade, and he will become a huge chip leader and take us to 4-handed poker.
Fade that spade. Fade that spade.
6 of clubs.
6 of clubs.
And the river is the deuce, and he is going to fade that spade draw and eliminate Dash in 5th place.
Dash lives right here in Des Moines, and he can add a little over 12,000 to his listed 40,000 in tournament winnings. Congratulations, this young man came to the final table as one of these short stacks and grinded to a 5th place finish. Poker's getting a little more expensive. Blinds are now 15 and 30,000 with a 4,000 chip ante.
And Chris decides, hey, pocket 10's gonna limp in 4-handed.
Okay, you can tell by my friend that she's not happy with that play. She probably would have liked to have seen a big raise come from Chris when you wake up with a big pair.
I think you just need to protect a hand as strong as 10s when you get it 4-handed. And although I'm sure Chris knows he has the best hand and he's not limping in because he's not sure where he's at, there's still something to be said when you're 4-handed and have such a big hand like 10s for you to be raising with it.
Well, Andy is going to raise it up. He makes it 95,000 with ace-9, and that's going to get Rick Golden to fold pocket deuces. And now let's see if Chris does the old limp re-raise all-in move.
On that stack.
He's getting a count of Andy's stack.
And who can really blame Andy for trying to raise ace-9 here 4-handed? He's seen Chris limp in with a range of hands.
385. 393. I'm all in.
Andy just finishes counting his stack, and Chris moves all in on him. And now Andy has a decision to make.
And I think this is where their past history and dynamic might get Andy into a little bit of trouble. Chris did make this exact same play earlier with ace-8, but Andy has to remember that was a blind versus blind situation, and this is a little bit different. And so I really hope that Andy doesn't choose to call it off here with ace-9, but he does.
Andy calls with ace-9.
Andy is going to see the bad news. Chris has got a big pair, especially for four-handed play. Andy, though, has a live ace in his hand. He's going to need to see it on the board to double up through Chris. Otherwise, Chris is going to claim another victim at this final table.
Good luck.
And send Andy home in 4th place.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's see the flop. The flop is 9 of hearts.
And the flop is 9-3 jack, couple of diamonds, and Andy does pair his 9, not the pair he was hoping for though, as he's still behind Chris's 10s.
Beat Chris's 10s.
Andy planning on using whatever prize money he wins today to take his wife and 2 children on a vacation.
Turn.
Another 9 will work.
The turn is the 4 of clubs, still not enough help for Andy. He's going to need a 9 or an ace on the river, or else he will be our 4th place finisher.
Here comes the river.
Please.
The river is a 7 of diamonds, and that is not going to do it.
Yeah.
Andy will be our 4th place finisher, taking home just under 16,000. And you know what? That's going to pay for a pretty nice vacation. So.
It's time for A Poker Life, featuring Doyle Brunson, brought to us by our friends at Ace Play Poker, my favorite segment on the show, where the legend himself, Texas Dolly, regales us with stories from yesteryear in the game. Last time on the HPT, he was telling us the story of Amarillo Slim's love for prop betting. Here is the conclusion to that story.
He did things like that all the time. He bet he could outrun a racehorse. You know, he'd bet for 100 yards, and they got the money up. It's okay, we're going to run 50 yards and then back 50 yards. Well, the money was up, and that was the bet. And so Slim ran 50 yards. Well, it takes the horse a long time to turn back around. Slim just stopped, turned back around, beat him easily. And he did all kind of things like that. He would bet he could make a cat pick up a Coca-Cola bottle. And I don't suggest anybody try it, but if you put a Coca-Cola bottle down there and grab a cat by the tail, that cat will reach out and grab that bottle, and when you start picking him up by the tail. And that was one of his gimmicks. And he had all kind of gimmicks on the pool table. He was a world-class pool player. I mean, he went to the armed service. He went. That's what he did, was entertaining the troops. He went around gave pool exhibitions, and Slim was a very unique guy.
More poker from the Prairie Meadows Racetrack Casino Hotel here on the HPT right after this.
We're back for some more fun here at Prairie Meadows, so let's head back inside.
Chris Louvier is still holding on to the top spot, and Terry Ring is in second with just over 1.1 million. Rick Golden has 575,000, and he is our short stack with about 19 big blinds. Blinds continue at 15K, 30K with a 4K ante.
We'll find out if this is...
This is Terry Ring on the decision.
Three-handed, he's on the button. And he's just gonna do the limping in thing that we've been seeing all throughout this final table. Jack 4 suited. I don't think I need to be reiterating what I would do, but...
Maria is not a fan of limping into unopened pots. Enough said. Chris is going to raise it up here with 8-5. Now here we go. Here's someone playing some poker.
And although we had seen Chris follow suit and limp in with marginal hands, I'm thinking maybe he's trying to mix it up a little bit now that it's three-handed.
Good for him. Let's see if it works. Nope, Terry is going to call from the button with Jack 4. He'll be in position for the rest of the hand. See what Terry's plan is. The flop is deuce, 4, 9, all clubs. Chris is the only one holding a club.
Terry does have middle pair, but it is hard to play middle pair on a monotone board when you don't have the suit in your hand.
Chris is going to continuation bet here, making it 150,000. Let's see if Terry continues in this hand with just middle pair. If he calls a raise on the button, you got to think he's willing to call one shot here.
Yeah, I think a lot of players like to call one on the flop and usually hope their opponent shuts down.
Terry calls.
Let's see if that's what Terry's looking for. See if Chris checks the turn.
The turn is the ace of spades. This is a great card for Chris to go ahead and bet again.
And that's exactly what he does. Makes it 210,000.
And I think this might end the hand for Terry. He doesn't have a club in his hand, and if Chris wasn't there already, he probably got there on the turn.
I think Terry was looking for Chris to check so that he could bet. And look at this. It looks like Chris is going to show the bluff.
Little does Chris know that Terry didn't fold a huge hand, didn't have much to call with, but I think that with the chip lead, Chris is getting a little bit feisty.
Blinds are going up. They're now 20 and 40,000 with a 5,000 chip ante. Chris Louvier on the button will be first to act here pre-flop, and he's going to raise it up with Queen Jack offsuit. Action now on Terry. And Terry looks like he wants to play this hand. Oh, wait a minute. Now he pulled the chips back. See, that's like faking the throw when you're playing fetch with a dog.
No call.
He is going to make the call.
And he just calls there with aces. That's pretty sneaky, and I like sneaky.
Interesting hand developing here. Rick is going to get out of the way. Heads up to the flop.
And the flop is deuce, six, deuce. Terry obviously in the lead here with aces.
Very safe board. Chris being the original raiser, you can't figure he has a deuce or a six in his hand. Rainbow flop, so there's no draws.
The turn is the jack of diamonds, and that's great for Terry because Chris has now paired. But it looks like Terry is going to lead out, and I would be shocked if Chris doesn't call here.
120.
So Terry's going to lead out on the turn here to try to get some value on his aces. Maria, maybe a check would have been a better way to extract some chips here.
Yeah, I think that if I were Terry, I would have checked here because, you know, you're hoping Chris will make a delayed c-bet this time with air. But luckily for Terry, Chris actually did hit the turn and decides to raise to 240,000. And looks like Terry's not going to have any of that as he re-raises to 500,000. And this brings up a good point because Terry and Chris did have some history a few hands ago where Chris did show Terry a bluff. And maybe Chris will think that now Terry just doesn't want Chris to get one over on him again.
Interesting dynamics. That's kind of third level thinking here.
All right.
But that re-raise is going to get Chris to fold top pair with a pretty good kicker, three-handed. A disciplined fold by Chris, in my opinion. A lot of players would have gone a little deeper in that hand.
I think Chris just doesn't feel like Terry's capable of bluffing regardless of their dynamic.
2 eliminations away from our next champion here on the HPT from the Prairie Meadows Racetrack Casino. Welcome back to the HPT. I am Fred Bevel. This is Maria Ho, and we have players battling down to 1 to be a champion. Let's check in with the updated chip count.
Terry Ring is back in the top spot as our chip leader. Rick Golden and Chris Louvier both have work to do, but they have a few chips to do it with.
Rick and Chris, 25 and 22 big blinds respectively. So not a lot of post-flop play left in their stack. They can't afford to lose.
Thinking 20
They can't really afford to limp either anymore, so...
Blinds are going up. It's 25 and 50,000 now with a 5,000 chip ante. Chris has already called from the button, and now action is on Terry. Terry got a good amount of chips off those pocket aces a few hands ago, but he's been bleeding them ever since. Terry's going to raise it to 125,000 with suited ace-8. Chris now has 75,000 to call with a suited king-9. And he will complete the bet.
And the flop is 9, 10, 3, 2 spades. Both players have flopped a flush draw. Terry's is best, though.
Terry has the nut flush draw. Chris, the second nut flush draw and middle pair.
250.
I'm expecting there to be, before I could even finish that sentence, Chris does move all in. He does have a pair and a flush draw, and honestly, in my book, with his stack, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, I can't blame Chris at all for going all in here with the second nut draw and a pair. Terry makes the call with just the flush draw, but he also has the live ace.
And it's funny how sometimes you think you're rooting for one thing and then you see the cards flipped up and you're not. All of a sudden, Chris just wants his pair to hold and doesn't want the spade to come.
Ace.
King 9 for the second.
There are 7 spades left in the deck for Terry to suck out here and eliminate Chris.
Terry could also hit an ace.
Pretty sure.
Let's see the turn card.
The turn is the 10 of diamonds.
10 of diamonds.
No improvement.
So an ace or a spade is what Terry will be looking for to eliminate Chris and go heads up.
Avoid it.
And the river is a 4 of diamonds, and that is not going to do it for Terry. He is not going to be able to go heads up with Rick. Instead, he's going to double Chris up just now.
Huge double up here for Chris. You can see on your screen over 2.1 million in this pot, and that is going to catapult him to the chip lead. Just like that, Maria, one hand, you go from the bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder.
When you're 3-handed at the final table, you really can't afford to be doubling other people up. That was a tough hand for Terry.
Terry will have the butt in this hand and a very, very small stack. I suspect he'll be all in this hand. He's got King 5, and yep, there they go. Terry's tournament life now at risk.
I gotta move my chips, man.
And Maria, I would think with Terry's anemic stack here that both these guys would be inclined to call and let the board run out.
Well, Rick looks down at pocket 10s, and I believe he should ISO, and he does. He makes it $200,000.
Just under $12,000 separates third place from second place. Rick is going to re-raise here to $200,000. Now, Maria, everybody who plays tournament poker knows that when you have a chance to gang up on one guy and ladder up the money, you might want to do that.
I'm not sure I like Chris's call here with King 10 offsuit. You could expect Rick to play pretty true with his hand, considering they're going to be tabled. And I just don't think that King 10 is good enough, especially since Rick is a somewhat tighter player. And I just don't think that King 10 is good enough, even though Chris is in position. Rick has shown to be on the tighter side.
And look at this action flop. King 10 ace with 2 clubs. Rick is flopped bottom set. Chris is flopped middle 2 pair.
And Rick is either deciding to slow play this, or maybe he's a little bit afraid of that board texture, even with bottom set.
It is a pretty draw heavy board.
The turn is the Jack of Hearts, and I think Rick was hoping for a safe turn card, but that's not a great one for his hand. But he does move all in, even when he knows he's only going to get called when he's beat.
Yeah, the only way you're going to get a call right here is if your opponent's holding a queen. Don't really understand the all-in bet from Rick.
It's unlikely that Chris has ace-king, ace-queen, or ace-jack here because he probably would have re-raised Rick pre-flop. So basically, there's no real hands Chris can call with unless he does have some kind of queen combination.
Yeah, Chris has to fold here. Even though you have 2 pair, when a 4 to a straight come on the board and someone shoves, you can't possibly call. Rick is going to show his bottom set.
Save me $500,000.
And Terry is drawing dead to a chop here. If a queen doesn't come on the river, he will be eliminated in third place.
Terry has King 5 for pair kings.
Terry hoping to get a lifeline on the river with a queen.
Did you call him?
And the river is a king, and that means Terry is going to be eliminated in third place. And I think Chris is just musing that if he made a bad call there on the turn, he would have made a bigger boat on the river.
Still no reason to have called that bet on the turn from Chris. It was a good fold nonetheless. And congratulations to Terry Ring, going third place at his first HPT final table.
It's about that time where a winner is going to emerge very soon. Come back for more from Prairie Meadows.
Welcome back to the HPT. Maria, we are at that moment in the tournament, mano a mano for the championship. Let's check the updated chip counts and get right to the action.
Chris Louvier has managed to turn this final table around. He came in as one of the shorter stacks, and now he has a commanding chip lead over Rick Golden. They are heads up for the championship.
Chris starting heads up with 80% of the chips in play. Rick with just 15 big blinds. But Maria, you know as well as I do, one double up for Rick, and he'll be right back in contention here.
I think Rick, for now, is pretty resigned to playing an all-in or fold game. But I guess Rick wants to defend here with 9-7 of hearts.
Chris has a monster hand with ace-king, and the flop is deuce-queen-9 with a couple of spades.
Rick has paired his 9. Chris just has ace-high, but he does have a spade in his hand.
Check.
Ace-king, one of the many hands in poker that's easily overplayed, but Chris showing restraint here. He's going to check through.
The turn is a great card for Chris. He paired his king, and he also has the nut flush draw.
The third spade comes on the board, and the second overcard to your pair comes on the board.
This is probably not a great card for Rick to decide to lead out.
200.
That doesn't stop him, though. He's going to fire 200,000 and represent a big hand here. Chris is going to re-raise to 635,000. Now, that confuses me a little bit. That's going to shut down the hand right here. Chris is so strong going into the river, you'd think he'd want to milk it for one more street.
If I were Chris, I would have just called. There's not really any rivers he's afraid of. He has the nut spade in his hand, and considering that they are heads up and this is your chance to possibly bust Rick, I would have just called.
Blinds continuing at 25 and 50,000 with a 5K ante. This time it's Rick first to act here pre-flop. He's got an ace-8.
And he's also got 7 big blinds, so this is a hand that he just needs to move all in with.
Chris just looks confident sitting there, in control of this final table, a monster chip lead. Maria, there can't be a better feeling for a poker player.
I'm all in.
Rick is going to move all in with his offsuited ace-8. And with just 7 big blinds, I would think Chris is going to call with any 2 cards here.
Chris is just getting a quick estimate of Rick's chip stack.
Not sure what Chris is holding yet, but it looks like he is going to make the call, so we'll find out soon enough. Good enough in my book, Queen 10 offsuit. Both players are going to table their hand, and Rick is going to see he's ahead, but flipping.
Rick has ace-8 offsuit. And this heads up match.
On to the flop we go.
And the flop is Queen Jack 7. Chris has paired his queen, and he pulls ahead.
Chris, 2 streets away from being our newest HPT champion, wants to fade an ace or running straight cards.
Need a 9.
Turn card, please.
And the turn is the 6 of clubs, leaving Rick an ace and only an ace on the river, or else he will become our runner-up.
Needs to fade 3 cards in the deck to be our newest HPT champion. The river has not been kind to the leading hand so far. Here it comes.
River is the 8 of clubs, and nope, that is not enough for Rick. Chris is our newest HPT champion, and Rick will finish in second for 32,000.
And Chris's first congratulatory hug goes to Eric Bishop, who took 4th place in our Oklahoma event. He brought Chris to this event, and right now I'm thinking he's very grateful to Eric for doing that.
You did.
Thank you, Christy Arnett, HPT's guest sideline reporter here in Iowa. Great run for our second place finisher, but the night belongs to Chris Louvier. He is our newest HPT champion, and he is standing by with Christy to get his thoughts on today's play.
I am now joined by our Heartland Poker Tour Prairie Meadows champion, Chris Louvier. Chris, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Now, this was a very long final table, lots of tough players. Tell me how it went for you.
It seemed that I faded every single draw that, that I was up against, and I got extremely lucky. I mean, I feel like I played well, but I mean, in this game, you've got to avoid the beats, and you know, obviously there's good players at the table, so they're sticking their money in with draws, and I just faded every one of them tonight. I mean, I did get extremely lucky with an 8 on the river somewhere in the middle of the tournament to keep me in it. So, I mean, I guess if there was any hand, I'd have to put it on that one, that I should have been out in 7th place, and here I am, ended up winning the tournament.
Congratulations once again. This is your latest Heartland Poker Tour winner. Back to you, Marie and Fred.
Thank you very much, Christy. It was a pleasure having you with us in Iowa this week. Maria, you said it throughout the final table. A lot of timid play, a lot of limping, a lot of folding. How do you think it went as we got more shorthanded down to a championship?
Well, I think the main reason why Chris ended up walking away with this championship is because when it did get shorthanded, he stepped it up a lot, amped up the aggression, and I think that has made all the difference.
Well, he is the man with the money in his hand. Chris Louviere, our newest HPT champion. Now, do you think you have what it takes to be an HPT champion or compete at our final table? Well, then log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. For Maria Ho and Christy Arnett, I am Fred Bevel. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.